Hi, good morning, everybody. How we doing? We doing all right? Yeah? I'll tell you what, my hands are a little sore because I was clapping during worship, and my hands are hurting a little bit because I was like, wow! Anyway, doesn't matter. Welcome to Southridge Church. If you don't know me, my name is Aleigha, and I am an intern here. And we are picking back up in our Rise and Fall series in 2 Samuel, okay? Just a little catch up for you. So, have you ever made choices that you thought for sure would cause people to reject you? I know I have. Matter of fact, about 8 years ago, I've shared this before, and it's something I will continue to share. I was making wrong choices. I was making wrong decisions. I was chasing the wrong desires. I was doing the wrong things. I clung to drugs, and I allowed them to ultimately dictate my life and the decisions that I made. You could tell through my actions that was my desire, was to just use. And then in 2018, I came here to Charleston, and I went to Recovery Point, and I graduated in 2019. And after my graduation, I got to go home for the first time, like as a graduate, as like someone who was completed and not like bound by Recovery Point. If you're at Recovery Point, you know what I'm saying. So I got to go home, and I was staying with my mom, and she wanted to go to church. Awesome. So we went to the church that she was highly involved in throughout my addiction, like the deeps of my addiction, okay? Like these people heard it all, okay? They heard all the things. And so we were going to this church. As you can imagine, I am feeling kind of nervous. I'm a little anxious, and I get these thoughts that they're going to reject me. They're going to see me, and they are going to give me the nastiest looks, and they are going to tell me to leave. That was my worst, like one of my worst fears. They're going to say, get out of here. Or the building was going to fall in. You know, you've all probably thought these things before. If I walk in that church, it's just going to collapse. And so that was my thought. I thought for sure, they know what I've done. They know my desires that I had in my past. They know the choices I was making. And so they're not going to want me there at all. However, it was completely different. When I walked through those doors, what they did blew my mind. They welcomed me in. They said, "We are so glad you're here, Aleigha. We've been praying for you. We couldn't wait to see you." They hugged me. Hey, I didn't think they'd want to touch me. You know what I mean? And so they hugged me. They were just genuinely happy I was there. They weren't like what I had heard about other church folk and the things that I have encountered from other church folk. You like that word, folk? That's old. Okay. And so anyway, it wasn't like that. They said, "Come back. We want you here." What? I will never forget that. That helped change me. That helped me choose to keep making the right choices, following the right things. And so I knew I had been loyal to my desires, to my drug addiction, to some other things, and then my ego and my pride, and then money, drama, chaos. That had been what I chased for so long. Have you ever been loyal to the wrong thing for a really long time? Yeah, I'm sure most of you, actually a lot of you said, yeah. Matter of fact, you know what, I have. Maybe, if some of you are like, I don't know, I don't think I have, I want you to think a little bit. Maybe a relationship, a lifestyle, a certain way of thinking, or maybe something like me, where you're chasing that pride, control, and comfort in all of the wrong places. I wasn't just making bad choices 8 years ago. I wasn't just making bad choices. I was following the wrong desires. I had the wrong identity in myself. And ultimately, I was following the wrong king. I was following the wrong king, and it cost me deeply. Even though those people welcomed me back in, I still had consequences for the things that I had done previously. The most shocking thing about my story that I told in the beginning wasn't when I hit my rock bottom. It was when I was welcomed back into the church. It was when I was welcomed in regardless of the things that I did. When the people welcomed me back in, but ultimately when God welcomed me back in. Not with shame, but with open arms. Maybe some of you have a similar story where you've been welcomed back in, where you've given your loyalty to something or someone that was the wrong one, that wasn't a good place to place it. Maybe, just maybe, some of you are still clinging to that version of yourself, to those familiarities, to those desires, to those things that you think are good for you. But maybe deep down inside, you know that it's actually not good for you. And it's not the right thing. So, I'm going to ease it up here a little bit. You like that? We're going to go into 2 Samuel chapter 3 today, okay? And we are going to meet someone who is doing just that. They're holding on to the wrong king. And we'll see how much that decision cost them. But we're also going to see how the true king is still and always willing to welcome you back in and welcome them back in. Okay, so catch you guys up if you haven't been here. David is in 2 Samuel. Anyway, David is chosen to be king by God, okay? He is the appointed one. And at this point, we know that he is currently only the king of Judah right now, but he has been appointed by God, anointed by God, called by God to be the king of all of Israel, okay? And people still making the wrong choices, still following the wrong kings, okay? So, I gotta tell you this before we start. I'm so sorry. Saul's house and the house of David are at war. They're at war. And Saul has passed, and now Ishbosheth, I had to do that like that because I keep pronouncing it wrong. Ishbosheth is now the king in place of Saul, which is Saul's son. Okay? Just a little back thing. That way you guys kind of know, okay? 2 Samuel chapter 3, we're going to start at verse 6, okay? If you don't have your Bible, you can scan the QR code in front of you. It'll take you right there. We got some online notes for you. Or you can check out the screens because they're going to be up there. They're already up there. Okay. Anyway, so during the war between the house of Saul and the house of David, Abner had been strengthening his own position in the house of Saul. Now Saul had had a concubine named Rizpah, who was the daughter of Aleigha. And Ishbosheth said to Abner, "Why did you sleep with my father's concubine?" Abner was very angry because of what Ishbosheth said. So he answered, "Am I a dog's head on Judah's side? This very day I am loyal to the house of your father Saul, and to his family and friends. I haven't handed you over to David, yet now you accuse me of an offense involving this woman? Ooh. Okay, so first things first, Abner has and has been, whatever, Saul's commander-in-chief since 1 Samuel chapter 14, okay? He's currently still in a high ranking with the new king, okay? He's got some status quo, okay, guys? He's got some reputation here. He's got some power because he's been a part of this kingdom of Saul's for so long, okay? Remember that. Verse 6 shows us what is really going on, what is really happening within Abner, because it says Abner had been strengthening his own position in the house of Saul. This tells me that this is not about loyalty to him. This is not about following the right king. This is about himself. It was about leverage for him. He stuck with Saul's house because he had that status. He had the ranking, and he had control. He wanted to control the board, and in Saul's kingdom, he was allowed to do that because he had been there so long. See, Abner desired more power and higher ranking. Therefore, he was seeking things for himself to make himself greater, strengthening his own position, okay? He was already a powerful man. He was important, but guess what? That wasn't enough for him. Although he was already powerful, already had the strength, already had power and control and the status quo, he wanted more. He wanted more than what he already had. He had ulterior motives and bad intentions. And we see that because Ishbosheth accuses him, Abner, of sleeping with Saul's concubine. Some of you may be thinking, what the heck is a concubine? Because I thought the same thing. Did my little searchy search. A concubine is actually a secondary wife to the king. So it was Saul's secondary wife. When someone would sleep with this concubine, they were challenging the throne, meaning they wanted to take control and be in charge. They were trying to claim the throne. So Ishbosheth is accusing Abner of this, and this is a pretty big offense. A man who's already trying to get power and strengthen his own self is now accused of this. And when he gets accused, even though it doesn't tell us he did or didn't, because he didn't address it in that way, like, yes, I did, or no, I didn't. Based on what he says, tells us that he has a different desire than what we think. He responds with outrage and anger. He tells us, or this tells us that this accusation has struck a nerve with how he responds, okay? This was his response, remember? He says, "Am I a dog's head?" You know what the heck that means? That means pretty much like, do you know who I am? Do you know who I am to question me? He is coming at the king like this. The king. Telling him, do you know who I am? Typically, we'll get to that point. Stop running ahead, okay? So we can see through the reaction of him that there is truth in this situation, some sort of truth. Whether he slept with her or didn't, there's something deeper, okay? He has bad intentions and ulterior motives. A was more worried about getting caught, getting found out, than being sorry or being right or wrong. He was more worried about being exposed. He starts telling us the good things he's done. He starts gaslighting, in other words. He starts self-inflating and gaslighting and saying good things about himself. Like, I'm loyal. And he's a very important and crucial figure in the house of Saul. He starts self-inflating by pointing out and gaslighting by pointing out how loyal he's been. And he starts to paint a really good picture of himself. And while he's painting this picture of himself, you know what he does? He makes it appear like Ishbosheth owes him everything. He makes it appear like Ishbosheth is actually ungrateful and unjust, and that Ishbosheth is actually in the wrong. He attacks Ishbosheth's character by saying, I have been loyal this whole time. How dare you say that about me? And this gets me thinking, like, honestly, his ego is louder than his conscience. He's so much more worried about himself, how he looks, how he appears, than what is actually true. And then I start thinking, how many times have we been Abner in this situation? How many times have we been so worried that we're going to be found out? That people are going to see the real us. That they're going to see what's really happening on the inside. They're going to see what we're doing behind closed doors, going to see what we think, where we're spending our time, and where we're spending our money, where we're spending all of our resources. Where are our desires? How many times have we been so worried about ourselves that when we are questioned or accused or approached about it, we react in anger and outrage? How many times have we done things like that? When we start the same behavior of self-inflation, gaslighting, and rage, where we say, how dare you say such a thing about me? After all I have done for you. I'm sure you've heard that phrase or said that phrase at least once in your life. When we say things like that, when we experience things like that, it makes me question, are your desires more important than doing what is right? Look at your life. Is it more important? Are your desires outweighing the truth? Are your desires outweighing what you know is right? Because when we're questioned with these things, we are entered into a place where it is dangerous. This is a red flag. When we're in this mindset, we're the real problem. So if someone approaches and is accusing you of something or asking something, you're probably going to get into a fight or flight response. Just like Abner is in this moment. He starts defending, and his brain starts turning, and now he has a choice to make. Abner has been following himself and been his own king for so long that when truth starts to be revealed, he's faced with a decision. The same decision that you and I have been faced with or are currently being faced with right now. Do I continue on this path of self-destruction? Do I keep fighting for power and control over something I will never have? Do I keep up this act, keep causing pain, or do I finally surrender to something different? Those questions are for us, but they're also for Abner, because we're going to find out what decision he makes, because he's at the middle road right now, okay? So we're going to do 2 Samuel, and we're going to start at verse 9, not chapter 9. We go to chapter 9, we're in trouble, okay? We're going to verse 9, okay? It says, "May God deal with Abner, be it ever so severely, if I do not do for David what the Lord promised him on oath, and transfer the kingdom from the house of Saul, and establish David's throne over Israel and Judah from Dan to Beersheba. Ishbosheth did not dare say another word to Abner, because he was afraid of him." So we see his decision. We see his choice. He makes it loud and clear. He says, you know what, Ishbosheth? I'm switching sides. I'm out of here. Peace out. He says, I'm taking this kingdom that your dad, your father, Saul has established, and it's going to David. What is crazy is all along, Abner knew who the real king is, who the true king is, who the rightful good king is, because he says it. He literally says, if I do not do for David what the Lord promised him. And because Abner knew this, guess who else also knew this? Ishbosheth. And Ishbosheth says nothing because he is afraid, because he knows truth. He knows that David is called and is going to be the king. So he is silent. This is a little lesson for all of us. If you know you aren't following the right king, if when you say something to him like Abner just said to this king, and he does not respond to you out of fear, and he stays silent, that ain't the right king. That ain't the right king. Because when we approach our king, when we approach the king, and we're doing wrong, and we're shown we're doing wrong, our desires ain't lining up, we're doing the wrong things, we're saying the wrong things, he ain't staying silent. The right king is going to correct you, direct you, and speak up. The wrong king ain't pushing back. So if you follow a king that does not push back, that's a king that ain't worth following. And honestly, if we're looking at our lives, if we're just like envisioning some things, thinking about what's going on in our lives, like, I want you to think, like, who else has been there? Who has been following the wrong king, or at some point had followed the wrong king? You know who the real king is, but you don't want to give up your position to follow him. We like running. We would rather run the show than take a back seat and let our king direct us. We know who the real king is, yet we keep rejecting that king. We keep saying, you know what, I got this. I got this. I know what to do here. We think that we know truth, but maybe we actually don't. Maybe some of us, we know the truth. We know about King Jesus. We know the right things. We know what we're supposed to be doing. Yet we'd rather rebel and try our own way first because we think it gives us a little more power, makes us feel a little goody-good for a second. You may be convinced that you know who Jesus is. You may know he's king, but I want to ask, have you surrendered your life to him? Have you given him all of you? Does he have you? Is your king silent, or is he speaking to you? Are you changing, or are you not? Do you still have the wrong desires, the wrong intentions, the wrong motives? Are you still in it for yourself? Because if you are, maybe we need to reevaluate. And when you do, things start to change. When we finally start to set ourselves aside, our desires aside, our fears, our worries, all of those things aside, our egos, and choose to follow the true king, we receive something we actually don't deserve to receive. Abner just made the decision to follow the true king at this time, which is King David. And so now Abner 2 is about to receive something that he doesn't deserve to receive, honestly. Okay, so verse 12. Bum-ba-da-dum. Okay, then Abner sent messages on his behalf to say to David, "Whose land is it? Make an agreement with me, and I will help bring all Israel over to you." "Good," said David. "I will make an agreement with you, but I demand one thing of you. Do not come into my presence unless you bring Michal, daughter of Saul, when you come to see me." Okay, at the very beginning, Abner sends messengers to David. And he says, "I'm going to make an offer with you to bring over this kingdom, David. I will bring you Israel in agreement," right? Looking at this text, this verse, it's not a humble surrender, okay? It's a power play. He says, "Make an agreement with me, and I will do something. I will bring all of Israel to you." He's trying to still keep some leverage, guys. He's still trying to have some sort of control, some power, some say-so, some authority. He is still trying to feel very important and superior. He is still dealing with those ego problems, right? I want to tell you, just because Abner made the choice to follow the Lord's anointed one, King David, doesn't mean he is perfect. He still has some struggles. I'm telling you this because when you make your decision, if you've made your decision to follow the true king, there are still some nasty things we carry. But it is our job to try to be rid of them, to cast them to our king and allow him to get rid of those things. We aren't perfect when we come to the king. Abner's not perfect when he came to the king. The true king, though, won't reject you. He will welcome you. And that's just what David did. He did not reject Abner, knowing Abner has served Saul in the house of Saul for a very, very long time. Knowing that Abner knows that David's king, David knows this. He knows that Abner knows these things. Yet he chose not to turn him away and reject him. He welcomes him in despite the failures he had made, the bad decisions he had made, the rotten desires he has. He still welcomes him in with open arms. See, David handles Abner's message like a true king. He does want one thing. He wants what the enemy stole. Looking at this, it might seem like a negotiation, but that's not what this is at all. See, King David only wanted to have returned to him what was already rightfully his. He is only interested in the kingdom if his bride is returned to him. Sound familiar? This is the same message with Jesus Christ. He wants his bride to return, us, the church, because we are rightfully his. The enemy has stolen Michal, and he wants her back, David. Okay? And if we continue to read through this chapter, you will see that the bride was returned. The bride was returned to David. Abner kept his word. A covenant was made between them, and Abner left in peace. Even though Abner walked away in peace, he never lives to see the kingdom fully come to David because he gets killed by Joab. He gets killed by Joab. Joab kills him out of a revenge for something that Abner did whenever he was following the wrong king. See, Abner killed Joab's brother when he was following Saul's kingdom. And because of it, because of the decisions he made, he was ultimately killed. See, Abner's past caught up with him. His old decision still had consequences. This cost him a lot. It costed him his life. So I want us to learn something, that the wrong king will cost you. The wrong king will cost you. Following the wrong desires, making the wrong decisions repeatedly, the wrong lifestyle, the wrong choices will cost you. The wrong kings, the wrong desires, the wrong decisions might feel good for a moment. It might look like you're in power. It might look like you got some control. Maybe you even get a little momentum. You feel like you're ahead a little bit. But eventually, false kings fall. False kings fall, ego breaks, and power fades. And all that is left is damage, hurt, pain. Following the wrong king will take more than you wanted to give. And it will keep you from where you are meant to go. It will keep you from what God has in store for you when we follow the wrong things and don't turn back. But there's good news. I promise. I know it feels like there's not, but I promise there is good news. The true king welcomes you. The true king will welcome you regardless of what you've done. Just like David welcomed Abner despite everything he's done. Despite the betrayal, the killings, all the things. If you know a little bit about this book, it's been a little crazy, okay, the past two. Despite all the things that he has done, he is still welcomed in by Abner. Same thing is true for us. Jesus welcomes you no matter your past. Jesus welcomes you no matter the choices you have made. Jesus welcomes you despite the decisions you have made. He welcomes you despite the destruction that you've left behind you. The true king, King Jesus, still says, you are welcome. You are welcome here. See, Abner waited too long. He waited too long to make the right decision. He didn't get to see the kingdom come. Don't let that be your story. You don't have to miss out on the kingdom. The kingdom was still growing with David. He hadn't got all of Israel yet. You don't have to miss out on the kingdom because it is here and now. You don't have to wonder what could have been because the kingdom's here and now. Because Jesus has already come. He has already won victory over the enemy. The battle has already been won. Those desires you're facing that are costing you, those choices you're making that are costing you, maybe they haven't costed you publicly, but they're probably costing you internally. You don't have to wait to hand those things over, to surrender. The kingdom's here. No matter how much baggage you carry, regret, shame, guilt, sin, Jesus is still ready to welcome you. Even if you've known the truth, like Abner did, and you went on your own way, the king hasn't given up. The true king welcomes you even if you got it wrong. Even if you've made wrong decisions, made wrong choices, went the wrong way, he welcomes you in today. And we've all crowned the wrong kings at some point. We've all followed our feelings, our addictions, our egos, relationships. We've followed all sorts of things. We've chased comfort, control, success, status, even chaos. We've put our will above God's will. And maybe some of us are still doing that. And the only way to stop following the wrong king is to welcome in the true king. And listen, surrender doesn't mean that you won't face consequences, that you won't have some sort of trial and error to go through. It doesn't mean that your pain disappears overnight. But it does mean that you'll always have a place in the kingdom. It means you'll always be welcomed in by the one who has never turned his back on you. So here's the question. Are you following the wrong king? Or are you following the true king? Maybe you're still questioning what I'm meaning by king. Maybe your king is an addiction. Drugs, alcohol, porn, sex, I don't know. Maybe your king is gossip, drama, control. Maybe it's pride, greed, fear, your need for approval. Or maybe a person, a job, your children, your grandchildren, your spouse. Whatever the king is that you're following, whatever it is that your desires are, your true desires, is it the right ones or the wrong ones? If your desires, your choices, your thoughts are in the wrong place, I want you to know Jesus is ready to welcome you in. And you can do that today. You don't have to wait. We have our altars open. You can make that decision to follow the true king. We have our altars. We have people that want to pray with you, that want you to know what it's like to be in the kingdom. We have people up here who have made that decision themselves, that have a job to do as the hands and feet of Jesus, and that is welcome you in. And we, as a church, as people who have made that decision, we have a job to do too. Keep laying our desires down at the feet of Jesus, the wrong ones, because we still have them. We still have them today. The difference is we don't have to choose to follow them and stick with them. We can lay them down. And that's not your only job as a church. As people who have chosen to follow Jesus, we are to welcome those in who want to be a part of the true kingdom and know the true King. So today, don't wait. I know there are so many of us in here that are struggling with something that is holding us down and keeping us from a true connection with the King. Lay it down. Don't leave with it. He welcomes it today. If you want to make that decision to follow Jesus, you can do that. People are here. Whatever it is that God is calling you to do right now, do it. Prayer room's also open. Just know the wrong king is going to cost you. But the true King will welcome you. Let's pray. Dear Heavenly Father, I thank you so much for what you're doing in here, God. I thank you so much for the services we've had already, God. And God, I pray right now that your Spirit come and move in the hearts, minds, and lives of the people sitting here, God. God, I pray that you come and you do what only you can do. I pray that people welcome you in, God. I pray that we just move in the way that you're calling us to. Lord, thank you so much